Hey guys, so today I'm going to be doing some 3x3 walkthrough solves, and these are going to be Chris Olson style. So pretty much I've pre-recorded a 639 average of 12, and I'm just going to walk you guys through pretty much just my solution, what I did, as well as what I could have done better. And so by doing that, hopefully you'll find this pretty useful. You might be able to improve your solving, who knows. But yeah, these were requested by 3x3 Cuber like a while ago, but I never really got around to making them until now. So yeah. Without further ado, I hope you enjoy these walkthrough solves. So my first solve of the 639 average of 12 was a 617, and so both white and yellow were okay crosses, but I think yellow slightly better, but just because the cross is 2-gen, and that makes tracking my first F2 pair like a lot easier. And so pretty much I'm going to track this green-red pair just because my entire cross is just going to be D and R moves, so this pair is going to be untouched. So pretty much I'm going to start by solving the blue cross edge in relation to the green one by doing DR. Then I can solve the red cross piece by doing DR2 prime and then D2R. And I can go immediately into this one while tracking the blue-orange pair, which I can just go straight into. Next up I have this green-orange pair. And so what I ended up doing was a Y, U2, set them up, and then rotate back and solve them like that. Although I think it's definitely better to do FU prime F prime and insert into the back, just because that saves 2 entire rotations. Even though the FU prime F prime is slightly hard to execute, it's definitely better overall in my opinion. But I ended up not doing that. I just did the 2 rotation solution. After that, I have this 2-gen last pair, which is pretty nice. Next, I just have OLL. And here, because this is a T-perm with U2 AOF, I ended up solving it like that. Although just doing standard T-perm plus U2 isn't really bad either. I think that just comes down to personal preference, really. But yeah, that was a 617. So that was a 636, and like the last solve, both the white and yellow crosses are pretty good, but I ended up going with yellow, and I tracked my green-orange F12 pair. And so pretty much I just did F prime, and then L prime, R prime to solve red and orange, and then D, R, D prime to solve the cross. Although what I should have done instead, I think, would be D, U2, R, D prime, because that would have immediately set up the next pair. I'm not really sure why I didn't decide on that, but yeah, I just did DRD prime and then just solved the pair like that. From here, I solved, I guess ideally, so I saw the blue-red pair, but I think ideally I would have solved the green-red pair, because then that would have left me with the 2 front slots open, which is really nice for look ahead. But yeah, I ended up like doing this pair, and I think I paused a little bit. I probably rotated like that to solve the green-red pair into the back, and then I just have this pair. Next, I just have pretty easy OLL, and then a GD perm. And I know I locked up and like probably did some unnecessary U moves in that last layer. So yeah, definitely wasn't the best solve in the world, but you know, it was alright. So my third solve was a 690, and I ended up solving my white cross by and I tracked the green-orange pair. So I solved green-white first by doing just an R, and I can just solve the rest of the cross pieces by doing D, L, F, R2, D, and then I just went immediately into this green-orange pair. And here I think to avoid an extra rotation, I could have just immediately solved the green-red pair into the back, which also left the front 2 slots open. But I solved the blue-orange pair, and then rotated again to solve the green-red one. And from here, honestly, I really missed out, because if I solved my F12 pair like this, and just inserting it, I would have a really nice 2G low case, and so this probably could have been like a sub-6 solve or something, I don't know. But instead, I rotated and solved it like 2-gen like this, and then I ended up getting a nice OLL into an NB perm, which is pretty unfortunate, although I didn't execute it the worst, but given that I honestly missed out on a lot to solve, I'm not too happy with it. So my fourth solve was a 606, and I'm going to solve white cross while tracking the blue-red pair. So I can just solve my cross by doing D prime R2 F prime to solve green and orange in relation to blue, and then just D2R to finish off my cross, and I can go immediately into this pair. So next up, this isn't the best case for F2L, as like 2 of the corners are already in the bottom layer, and it's just not the best thing overall. I guess the best pair I should have done was just green-orange, as it doesn't take any rotation to solve. But I ended up doing green-red by rotating R prime UR and then rotating again. And so immediately that's already bad because that's 2 rotations, and you don't really want that for F2L pairs. You want to try to minimize that as much as you can. So instead, what I should have done was like LUL prime, and then just inserting it into the back, because that's only 1 rotation as opposed to 2. But yeah, I ended up going with this. I guess one good thing that came out of solving this pair like that is that my last 2 slots ended up being on the right, which is okay. It's definitely better than on the left. So if I had rotated this way instead, having the slots on the left is not as good, just because I'm better at righty moves than lefty moves, right? So next up I have just this blue-orange pair, which I solve like this, and then I could immediately go into this pair, like that. Although, let's see if I can set this up. I guess if I really wanted to orient the edges, I could have done that, although I don't think it's really worth it, so yeah, doing this is fine. Next I just have 6-move OLL into a U-perm, so I got pretty lucky with the last layer there, but it was still a pretty decent solve. So my next solve was a 543, which I did white cross on, even though looking back on it, yellow seems to be like a lot easier. But yeah, so I solved blue in relation to red, and I can just do D prime, R2 prime, F, R, and then D prime, and I can go immediately into this blue-red pair, which I can solve into the back. Next up, I have green-red, which, once again, this is another case of me solving an F2L pair of 2 rotations when I could just do 1 or even 0. In this case, I could have done this entire pair rotation list just by doing that, but I ended up doing a rotation up from E2L and then rotating back and inserting into the back like that, which is definitely a lot worse. So yeah, just in the future I need to really make sure I'm not doing that as much as I am. Next up, I rotate, and then I can do this pair, just like so. And then I'm going to rotate once again and just do R prime B2R to insert it. Next I just have this really easy OLL into a Z perm. And so yeah, that was a 543. Despite that 2 rotations and that 1 F2L pair, this was a pretty smooth solve, so yeah. So the next solve was a 653, and I ended up settling on white cross. And I tracked my blue-red pair. So pretty much I'm gonna start by doing an F move, and then I can just solve my red piece with an R. And before inserting orange, I'm gonna do U prime just so that sets a blue. Next I have this blue-red pair, like so. And I ended up solving green-red next, and this gave me 2 open slots in the front, which is really nice. So here, I guess I could have done something fancy by doing some pseudo-slotting stuff by solving this corner, and then I have the pseudo pair, which I can just insert like that, I guess. I guess that's probably one of the best solutions to do. But I didn't really see that in the solve as I was going like pretty fast, so I ended up just doing, I inserted green-orange with keyhole, but I was able to look ahead really nicely into the next pair, like so. Then I just have COLL into a Z perm, so I guess it was an okay solve, but I think, I missed out a little bit with that last 2 pair solution, but yeah, it's alright. So that solve was a 710. And I'm going to go for a white cross. Yeah, I did white cross. And pretty much I'm going to solve my cross while just preserving this just blue-red pair. It's not a pre-made pair, but it's just, I'm going to do like an extra U prime move to preserve it, sort of. So pretty much I'm going to insert red, and I can do a U prime, and I can insert green and just insert orange like that. And I can go straight into this pair. Here, okay. Once again, I did 2 rotations when I could have done 0. It's honestly kind of weird how much I'm doing this. But yeah, so once again, so here all the corners are in the bottom layer, so that definitely made it hard for me to look ahead. So yeah, I did U2 insert, and then probably another insert like that. Although I'm realizing now that I should have just inserted that into the back so that I have 2 front slots to deal with rather than 2 back slots. So yeah, honestly, this was just terrible overall. But yeah, ideally, that would have been my solution. Rotationless F2 pair. But yeah, I think I did that. And then I'll probably solve green orange next. Yeah, I did that, and then I just cancel into this pair. Finally, I just have OLL into a G prime. So yeah, my look had struggled a little bit there. So did some of my F12 solutions. And I think I locked up a little bit during PLL as well. So yeah, overall not the best solve in the world. But 7.1 isn't like the worst thing in the world either, so yeah. Next up, I got a 612, and I kind of, like, I was kind of tracking 2 F2 pairs during the solve, like, during inspection, just because I knew that I'm going to track, so my first pair would be blue-red, and then I can do blue-orange. So, yeah, the way I'm going to go about this is by, once I do my cross, I'm going to do blue-red while tracking blue-orange, just because I already know where blue-red's going to end up during inspection. So yeah, we can do R prime, D prime, R, L2, and then just a D2. And so I can do this, and then rotate and solve like so. Although, once again, I think I should have done this lefty, so that I have two right slots to deal with. But instead I did it righty, and so now I have 2 slots on the left to deal with. But I mean, I'm not terrible at lefty moves. So yeah, first of all, I solved this F12 pair into the back, and then just this pair like that. Next, I have OLL into a G perm, GA actually. Yeah, so that was a 612. It was a pretty solid solve. Once again, there's no like 2 rotation F12 solutions or anything bad like that, so I was pretty happy with this one. This next solve was a 702, and so I did white cross, and honestly, looking back on it, I probably should have made use of this like 1x1x3 block, but I didn't. So yeah, I saw my white cross while tracking this blue-orange pair. So I actually started the solve with the cube at this angle, because I did like a U prime, white R2 prime, R2, and then just D prime, R prime, D. Then I can go straight into this blue-orange pair. Next, I solved green-red by doing, by setting it up like this and inserting with RU to R prime. I think it's just easier to finger trick this way than doing an RU prime R prime insert. Sorry, that's just me though, I guess. Next up, looking back on it, I guess I should have solved this pair by doing like a lefty sledge and inserting, because then the last pair would have just been a 3-move insert, right? But I don't think I would have seen that in a solve. I don't think I would have noticed that the next pair would be a 3-move insert. Instead, what I ended up doing was taking it out, rotating, and inserting. And so then I would have to rotate again for the last pair, which is definitely not good. I should have just done an FU prime F prime insert, and then the last pair would be rotationless. So yeah, there are definitely a few things I could have done better, but yeah, I think I just did that and then rotated again. But next up, I had this nice OLL CP, because I know that my standard OLL alg would give a diag swap, and this OLALG isn't so good either. So pretty much this OLCP is just you take out the pair, do that, and then it's kind of like a VLS case from here. And then I just have a Z prim with no AUF. And so, yeah, the F12 definitely wasn't the greatest, but I think that OLCP was pretty nice. It made the solve a little bit better. So, yeah. This next solve was a 645, and so I did white cross, but looking back on it, I really don't know why. Like, yellow cross is just miles better. It's 5 moves and it's 2 gen. It's just better overall, but I ended up doing white, and pretty much I started by solving orange in relation to blue, which you can just do by doing DR, right? But I ended up doing D F prime R just so that the last 2 cross edges would be in a slightly better position. So yeah, that's what I did, and then I can finish my cross off by doing D F R2 and then a D. Then I can just solve the green red pair into the back, and from here, without a doubt in my mind, like the best pair to do next would be green orange. I'm gonna just do a U2, insert into the back, and then I have 2 really nice front slot pairs that both of which have their edges oriented already. So it would be a really nice F12 had I done green-orange first, but I ended up doing blue-orange first, and even if I did blue-orange first, I should have solved it just like this, and the F12 still wouldn't have been so bad, but I ended up doing like a Y2 prime, and then like inserting it into the back. So like many of my other solves in this average, my like head struggled quite a bit. So yeah, once I did a Y2 and solved this blue-orange pair, canceled it to blue-red, inserting it into the back, and here I just solve this last pair normally, like so. Then my last layer is literally just anti-soon and an H prim. So yeah, that F12 honestly sucked. It did have potential, but I just didn't take advantage of that. But that lucky last layer ended up making the solve, giving me a 6.4. So I'm not particularly sure how to feel about the solve, but it's a 6.4, so I can't complain too much. The next solve was a 686, and I did white cross, and I found that just doing my regular cross solution would actually set up the green-red pair for a 3-move insert. So pretty much I'm gonna solve orange and blue in relation to one another by doing FL2, although I'm gonna execute it sort of like D and then like wide RL kind of, if that makes sense. And then I'll just solve green and red by doing D prime R prime F, and then finishing off my cross with a D2. Then I can solve this with just LU2L prime. And here I think I probably should have just done the rotationless F12 pair, the orange-green, like so. Or maybe like so. Either one's fine. But I ended up saying blue-orange first, which I solved by just inserting it into the back like this. Which isn't too bad, but I think doing orange-green first would have been slightly better. Next up, I've got blue-red, which I solved like so. And here, 100% the better way to do this is to do RU2R prime and then rotating it and inserting it into the back. And doing this will just orient a few edges, because having this OLL is a lot better than having a dot OLL like this. But for some stupid reason, I ended up rotating first and inserting the pair. I realized that, like, as soon as I rotated, I realized that I messed up, that, like, I shouldn't have done this. But I think getting a dot OLL is slightly better than rotating and then rotating back, so that's why I ended up just giving myself the dot OLL. From this angle, I should have just done this OLL anyway. But I ended up just doing this OLL, which kind of sucks. Which gave me a diag swap, a Y prim. So, like, that last layer sucked, but I could have influenced the last layer had I done my last F12 pair differently, so I can't really blame my luck for that. I really should just blame my poor F12 skills, I guess. But yeah, that was 686 with probably the worst last layer ever, so yeah. So my last solve of the 639 average of 12 was honestly it's actually something good for a change. So it was a 474, and I was able to find an X cross as well as my next F12 pair. So I was able to plan cross plus 2 upon inspection, which is pretty nice. So pretty much I'm going to do a UD prime, which solves this green cross edge while also setting up blue and orange. Then I can do an L2 prime UL, which solves orange while solving this F12 edge. Then I can do DU prime and then R prime, which finishes off my X cross. And the reason why I did that extra U prime towards the end was because I think having this as my blue-red pair rather than this is slightly better. And so yeah, I ended up doing that U prime and then just solving this pair into the back. Next I have this really nice 2-gen F12 pair that I can rotate and insert into the back. Now I have this 6-move OLL into a U perm. And I'm not sure if that's UA or UB. I honestly keep getting this mixed up. But yeah, I had a really nice F2 last layer. So yeah, that ended up being a 474 with like really nice trading. I really couldn't have asked for much better on this solve, so nice. Actually, I was just playing around and I actually found like another really nice solution on the 474 scramble. So I'm gonna solve the same X cross and the same second pair. And so I'm gonna solve this 3 pair first. And then I can solve this pair by orienting the edges and then doing winter variation. And then I could even cancel into this U-perm. So if I was somehow able to do like all of that with the winter variation and the canceling and everything like that, that could have been like really, really nice. But yeah, that was just a fun solution that I found on the scramble. But that's really it. Alright, so that's really all I have to say as for my 3x3 walkthrough solves. And hopefully you guys found these at least somewhat entertaining and or useful. And if not, then just leave a comment giving me suggestions on how I can improve these walkthrough solves so that I can take them into account for future videos. So yeah, that's really all I have to say. Thank you guys for watching, and goodbye.